And a very good early morning to you. I'm outside Leeds Station and I'm a little bit excited because the line I'm about to travel on is arguably Britain's most scenic railway. It's time to go fully in depth, get out at every station and do the story that is the iconic Settle and Carlisle Railway.
Built in the 1870s, the Settle and Carlisle Line runs between Settle Junction in North Yorkshire up through to Carlisle in Cumbria, and at 73 miles long, it passes through the stunning scenic region of the Yorkshire Dales into the North Pennines, and is notable for having several impressive tunnels and viaducts, the most well-known being the one at Ribblehead. Train services are operated by Northern, although it's a popular route for steam excursions and other heritage charter trains too, especially during the summer. And there's a Friends Association who have many volunteers on the line, along with the Development Corporation and the Settle and Carlisle Trust too, who all work together. And we'll catch up with some of those people later, as well as delving into the history of the line. Train services run between Leeds and Carlisle, so I've bought myself a return ticket to Settle and then a Settle and Carlisle Day Ranger ticket, which allows you unlimited travel up and down the line. Heading out west from Leeds, trains branch off here at Settle Junction, and we are then officially on what's been described as the most romantic mainline railway in Britain. The line came about back in the 1860s when the Midland Railway Company, the biggest and the best at the time, wanted their own route from London to Scotland, and rather than share tracks with the West Coast and East Coast mainline companies, they worked out a route that would link the Ribble and Eden valleys and set about constructing their 72 miles of railway line. The line crosses the impressive moors and includes 14 tunnels and 22 viaducts, and was a staggering feat of engineering to construct. But it came with the heavy cost of lives. Many navvies working on the line lost their lives. It's been estimated that around 300 men were killed during construction. Settle is the busiest station on the line and became Grade 2 listed back in 1984. And although there's a footbridge here, the Barrow crossing remains in use for accessible access. I note too that there's what looks like a preserved signal box here. I've been here about 2 minutes and I'm already in love with Settle Station. It's my clear favourite, but I've got 10 more stations to go. We'll see how the days go. The friends of the Settle and Carlisle line, they have a little visitor information shop here, which we need to go and have a look at in a minute. It's a gorgeous sunny day. I deliberately picked June, hoping the weather would be nice. The weather is perfect. This is already just gorgeous. I then meet husband and wife team Jill and John, who volunteer here. Jill is running a workshop this morning, helping to clean up and maintain some equipment for another separate nearby local heritage line. And that preserved signal box that I spotted upon my arrival, well, that's what John is here for. Normally open to the public on a Saturday, he's happy to let me inside to take a look and explain its workings to me.
Quite simply, we've got a 20-lever frame. We're a working museum. So what we've done is reconfigured the frame so we can demonstrate two signal box working. This end is Settle Station, that end 2 miles away is Settle Junction. We've got a stop signal there, a stop signal and a distance signal outside, and by these and the block instruments we can demonstrate that and show people actually how trains are still moved on this line. We're very much the line time forgot, because from Hellifield in the south it's controlled by the power box at York, and all the way up to, almost all the way up to Carlisle, it is manual signal boxes still. And then the stop signal.
I've come out the signal box to discover a coach load, literally, because I saw the coach turn up, has dropped off all these people who are going for a walk, for a ramble. The train will take them up to Dent or to Ribblehead or Appleby. They'll go for a walk for a day out and then get the train back, and their coach will pick them up again. A very popular place to come for a walk and use the train on the Settle and Carlisle line to get there. Also, John just gave me a paper timetable, which is great, because at Leeds ticket office this morning, I said there's a PDF online, but do you still do paper timetables? And in the ticket office, they said no. They said no, Northern don't do them. Well, I've got one, so I don't know where he got it from, but paper timetables in 2025 do still exist, which is that just pleases me greatly. And they also give me a badge. It's Railway 200 this year, obviously, but also 1876 is 150 years freight of the Settle and Carlisle. Next year, 1877, 150 years of passenger operation. But I like the fact that the 150 is tying in with Railway 200. So I've got my badge, I've got my timetable. I'm very excited, and I'm getting the train to go north again.
But go back a few years and you almost weren't able to get a train north or anywhere at all. In the 1970s, the line suffered from a lack of investment, and British Rail closed all the stations on the line except for Appleby and Settle and ran a very much reduced service. And in 1981, they proposed that the line be closed completely. But an incredible protest group formed, and they were very vocal and campaigned hard to keep the line open. And their efforts brought national and international publicity to the line, to the point where in 1989 the government agreed to reopen closed stations and the whole line should remain open and be developed. Next stop is Horton-in-Ribblesdale. Originally just called Halter when it opened, it once won the Best Kept Station Award 17 years in a row. It's recently had a new footbridge installed with lifts for full accessible access, and that's come about because of this spur of track branching off to the south of the station. The Settle and Carlisle Line has a history of freight services for quarries along the line, and this newly replaced siding runs to Horton Quarry. So I went for a short walk over the open fields to go and find it, as I could hear the rumble of a locomotive in the distance, and I wanted to see where it was. Here I met up with Les, a Settle and Carlisle volunteer who is an on-train guide. On-train guides travel along the line describing passing scenery and talk about the railway. Obviously, we got talking about the railway and specifically the timetable.
It's just a lovely station in the sunshine, although I'm sat in the shade right now as we wait the 11:59 northbound. Been looking at the official northern timetable as well as the paper timetable, my own map, paper timetable which I've printed out. And Les, the chap who I went up to see the freight train with, been having a nice chat, and he tells me that the reason why there's some stations skipped in the afternoon on the 13:36 out of Carlisle is to allow space and paths for freight trains to come through. So freight trains do also share the line with passenger trains down here, and that reminded me that there have in the past been other special excursions on a Saturday, and I've even been on one, and Les said, yeah, they still do those, but now they're run by Northern. Here's the details on those.
You see, my first ever trip on the Settle and Carlisle Railway was in 2005. That's the year in which I think I can say I had my first ever proper railway adventure. I took a whole week off and travelled the country and made several trips that I'd wanted to do for a long time, including the length of the Settle and Carlisle. I didn't get out though, I just rode the line. But I rode there by going up on a special Saturday-only train that went through Clitheroe and used the rarely used line up to Hellifield, from where it then continued up to Carlisle. Nowadays, Northern runs similar services, and currently twice on Saturdays you can get a train that starts in Rochdale, goes via Manchester, up to Clitheroe to Hellifield, and then on to Ribblehead, where it reverses and makes a return journey. And even more unusual that caught my eye in the timetable is the one train a day on a Sunday that starts in Sheffield, goes up via Leeds, and continues along the entire length of the line to Carlisle. But then when it returns in the afternoon, it goes back to Leeds, keeps going, and goes all the way through down to Nottingham. Back onto the train, and the next stop, another extremely popular point along the line. It's the iconic Ribblehead.
So made it to Ribblehead, although the sign here says welcome to Ingleborough, the National Nature Reserve, and it's just a gorgeous sunny day, which is ironic because last time I was here 8 years ago it was really wet and rainy all day. I remember it very, very well, so it's great to come on a beautiful summer's day. The thing to do is to go over and look at Ribblehead Viaduct, but you know, let's not take the shine away from some of the other bridges and tunnels and structures and viaducts on the Settle and Carlisle line. So here's a quick rundown of some of the more notable features.
The Smiledale Viaduct is actually the highest, just north of Kirkby Stephen Station at 131 feet high. Arton Gill, though, is a local favourite to photograph, albeit tricky to get to by road, and some argue that it's more impressive than Ribblehead. And then there's the Bleemore Tunnel, right by the signal box of the same name. It's the longest tunnel on the line, an impressive feat of engineering. And of course, Ribblehead Viaduct itself, the longest viaduct on the line with 24 stone arches. But the Ribblehead Viaduct remains popular because it's just a short walk away from the station, so if you want to go and get an impressive photo, this is the place to do it. And I didn't have to wait that long until a train rumbled above me across it. The pub here, by the way, at Ribblehead, which is popular with ramblers, is the Excellent Station Inn, which is very much railway themed with lots of signs inside, and has even got a real-time departure board so that you can keep an eye on the time or status of the next train. Also, the old station master house is still here, and you can rent that out to stay in as a holiday cottage as well. But me, I went back to the station to grab myself a cuppa.
In the cafe visitor centre at Ribblehead, where the volunteers have made me an excellent cup of tea, I've been reading up the Walk the Line brochure, and Liz has been telling me that Ribblehead and Horton-in-Ribblesdale are basically the two stations to come to if you want to do like hiking and trails. And it was the Three Peaks, but I'm now told that because lots of places have Three Peaks, it's now been renamed the Yorkshire Three Peaks. So come to one of these two stations if you're doing the Yorkshire Three Peaks Challenge. But what's really grabbed my attention through there is the old ticket office.
Yes, in the room next door to the cafe in the visitor centre, there's more information about the history of the construction of the viaduct, and in the room next to that, there's a Thomas Edmondson ticket rack and printing machine where you can get to play ticket seller. So I recruit Les, and we have a little fun as I, buy, in quotes, a ticket from him. Original ticket window. Hello, could I have a ticket, please?
Yes, sir. Where to?
Carlisle, perhaps?
Right, sir.
And you've got a little machine, you give it a stamp? Sure, just stamp it. Thanks very much.
7 and 8 pence, please.
Do you take contactless cards? The reason Ribblehead has staggered platforms, by the way, is that after it was brought back from its 1970 closure in 1986, it operated with just a southbound platform only for several years until 1993, and that's when a new staggered northbound platform was constructed and opened. Back on the train, and the Settle and Carlisle Development Corporation run a trolley service, which is great. It sells gifts alongside refreshments, including ice cream, and generally this operates between 9 AM to 2 PM between Settle, Appleby and Carlisle. So I grabbed myself another drink.
Train's about to arrive at Dent. Thank you. I might have made a tactical error here because I got myself a cup of tea from the trolley, but I didn't grab any food, and there's a 2.5 hour wait for the next train, and for reasons which are about to become apparent, I don't think there's a shop nearby.
And with just over 9,000 passengers reported in the last period, this is the least used station on the line.
Welcome to the Yorkshire Dales. I know I'm there because the sign behind me says I am, and the Onward information board gives nod to the fact over there that Dent Station is 5 miles away from the actual village of Dent itself, which is down there, down that very steep road. I just saw a sign for it, and there's a very remote bus stop as well. I play a game with my friend Roger. Every time I see a remote bus stop with a very sparse bus service, I take a picture and I send it to him, and I just sent him a picture of that bus stop over there. But Dent, charmness off the scale, I'm loving it.
So to be more accurate, Dent Village is 4.8 miles away from the station. And I think that this makes it the station in Britain that is furthest away from the place that it is named after. The settlement of Cowgill is actually nearer, so the station could have been called that. And the other big claim to fame for Dent is that at 1,150 feet above sea level, it is the highest operational railway station in England. There's an unguarded barrow crossing here too, which allows passengers to cross between the two platforms. And as the least used station, I felt obliged to check out its station facilities. There's no ticket machine, but the blowing bin bag in the breeze catches my eye. So if remote stations are your thing, then come here, and perhaps also stay here, which is what you can do in the former station building, which you can now rent out as a holiday cottage. So come to Dent, breathe in the air, and do what I do, and just relax, as I read my book about the line's disused stations. So the line has several disused stations, as well as other nearby lines which are now long gone. At Garsdale, the railway had a connection which used to branch off to the east towards the town of Hawes and on to North Allerton. Kirby Stephen used to have 2 stations, as there was a separate railway with Kirby Stephen East, and that's now part of the preserved Stainmore Railway. And the same at Appleby too, where another nearby railway, there was an Appleby East station on a separate line. Part of that is preserved nowadays as the Eden Valley Railway.
And even though, as you would expect for the Settle and Carlisle line, because it is that wonderful and charming, there was a waiting room with a plaque and information posters and times, yes, there's times on the wall, there's still a sign here which I can't recall ever seeing anywhere before, saying if you want, this telephone may be used to call the signalman regarding train running times. I don't need to do that. There are times posted on the wall of the waiting room here.
I do a bit of classic doubling back for the next section by going to Kirkby Stephen next. It's a bit like Dent in that the station is almost 2 miles away from the town of the same name that it serves, due to the Midland Railway's desire to keep gradients on the line to no greater than 1 in 100 to allow it to be a main line and for fast running of trains. And I then catch a train back in the other direction, one stop down to Garsdale.
So I made it to Garsdale station. It's quiet. It's a beautiful June summer's evening. The view is this. It's just spectacular to look at. In the distance down there, I can see a viaduct and semaphore signalling. What's not to love about that? And there's also there's some taps. There's like some drinking water fountains. Sadly, they don't work. But they do look cool. I'm just reversing here. It took me a moment to figure out how to reverse, which was to walk under the bridge to change platforms. I'm heading north, maybe go up to Carlisle. I'll see what I end up. It's a June summer evening, so there's a lot of daylight. But most of all, over on the other platform over there, there's a statue for a dog called Ruswarp, which is the short story which I want to tell next.
The bronze statue on the southbound platform was placed here by the Friends of the Line in 2009. Ruswarp was the faithful friend of Graham Nuttall. He was the first secretary of the Friends of the Line, and when thousands of people signed the objection to the line being closed, it included Ruswarp's paw print as a valid signature. But in 1990, a few years after the railway was saved, Graham and Ruswarp went walking in the Welsh mountains but did not return. And when Graham's body was discovered 11 weeks later, Ruswarp was still close by, having stayed with his master in the winter weather, and although very weak, Ruswarp survived. The statue now symbolises the successful campaign to save the line from closure, and Ruswarp's eyes look towards the hills and to the bench on the far platform, dedicated to Graham Nuttall. Garsdale was their favourite place.
Made it to Appleby station, Appleby for Westmoreland. I have been here before. A few years ago, this was one of the stations that I have got out on the line. And based at Appleby is the Settle and Carlisle Development Corporation. And today I've just caught up with Karen to ask some questions about who they are and what they do.
Well, the Settle and Carlisle Railway Development Company, the main aim of that is to actually promote the line and bring economic and social benefits to people who live along this line, the whole 63 miles of Settle Carlisle. And it's officially the most scenic rail line in Europe.
Is that true?
According to Lonely Planet publishers. So yeah, Lonely Planet publishers, we're very grateful to them for naming us that. It's a line that was built in the Victorian era and is just as relevant today as it's ever been, especially with sustainable tourism, which is something that's one of our key drivers at the moment. It's getting people to beautiful places without impacting too much on the environment.
But I ask, is it a railway for tourists or commuters?
It's very much both, especially in the winter time. We have the trolley service all year round on our line, and that is funded by the Settle Carlisle Railway Development Company. We're creating jobs for people, local people, to work on those trolleys. And in the winter time, when it's serving mainly local people, going shopping, going to school, going to work, it doesn't make a profit. But in the summertime, the tourism, it really does. So it balances out. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to encourage people to come here, enjoy the area, doing it sustainably. And that, in turn, improves the economic development for businesses locally, which then improves things for the communities. So it goes hand in hand. It's not one or the other. It's both, and they work harmoniously together.
Karen, like many other people, absolutely loves this railway line.
It nearly didn't get built. Yeah. It nearly didn't survive the 1980s. And today, it's internationally famous. It's the most beautiful line to come on. Really, if you've come on this line, because you won't be disappointed. It feels cosy. It's got a family feel to it. It's just a very friendly journey to make, and you'll see the most beautiful countryside. You go down the backbone of England, and what's better than that?
My next stop was Armathwaite, the penultimate stop before you get to Carlisle on the line. And on this gorgeous day, I find that again, the station is high up in the hills above the village that it serves, and there's no crossing within the station, meaning you have to exit the station and walk under the bridge along the road if you want to change platforms.
Made it to Armathwaite. The sun is beating down. I was very relieved when I got here to find on the onward travel information map there was a little thing saying PO, which is post office, and I walked down a hill, a steep hill, 6 minutes down, find that the post office was indeed a village stores. Got myself a drink and waiting for the train back. For my last 3 stations of the day, I'm doing a classic forward 2, back 1, no, forward 3, back 2, forward 1. I bounce back and forth, otherwise if I just went sequentially, I would have not have ticked off all the stations today. 2 platforms here, beautiful old station house. Again, it's at the top, the village is down below, the views are spectacular. There's an old signal box too, and also you have to see inside the waiting room here.
Yes, amongst all the books, it's a book swap and DVDs, there's a DVD swap too, and photos and history and leaflets of the station, which the volunteers keep and maintain here. There's even this, a portable radio, something which I'd never seen in any station before, which you could just turn on, tune in and listen to whilst you wait for your train. So my final 2 stations that I need to visit to tick off to say that I've been to them properly are Armathwaite, and here I get chatting to a local who tells me that they much prefer using this station and this line instead of the nearby Penrith because it's just so much nicer, and I spent some pleasant time here. Then it was on to Lazenby and Kirkoswald, where I discovered that in the village that there was a Midland hotel and pub. And that reminded me there'd been a Midland hotel at Appleby as well, and in the back of my head I could think of other stations in Yorkshire that also had Midland hotels and pubs. Just makes me wonder, did the Midland Railway Company build a hotel at every station that they built, and how many survive today? I would love to know. So Cumbria and the Yorkshire Dales are just a wonderful place to visit. Even better, I feel, when you go by train. And to end my day, I very deliberately returned to Ribblehead to catch the last train of the day.
So we're back at Ribblehead Station. It's still daylight, it's the evening. We'll get to that in a second for one specific thing. I'm not trying to be melodramatic on purpose, but I am wondering, is this Britain's most scenic, beautiful railway? Obviously, bits of Devon and Cornwall and Wales and Scotland are all up there with a shout, but that's just the thing I wonder, and it's just fantastic here. And the quirky thing is that I noticed in the timetable, and when I realised that I'll be coming in June, middle of June, summer solstice week, there's a late train out of Leeds that gets into here at 9:08, only goes as far as Ribblehead, reverses over the viaduct, then comes back in, starts in service here at 9:45 p.m. and gets back down to Leeds tonight at 11 p.m. So that's what I'm doing. I'm here for the sunset shot of the train whilst it's still light and just riding the line home as the sun sets. And it's just awesome. You should come and ride the Settle and Carlisle Line.
The Settle and Carlisle Line is just a joy to ride and explore, and may just be one of the finest railway adventures you can have in Britain. There's history at every stop, the scenery is the best, and the towns and villages you can visit are full of charm and character. So my thanks to everyone that I met and spoke to during my travels, particularly the volunteers at stations and on trains who are all just excellent. And I can only thoroughly recommend that you come and ride this railway if you've never been, as the Settle and Carlisle is just fantastic. Thanks for watching.